Alright, so go ahead and navigate back to your Module 0 folder. A neat trick for you actually. While you are typing out the path to your Module 0 folder, whenever you start typing something, you can actually hit Tab and it'll fill in the rest of the word or the rest of a name for you if it exists. This is called tab completion and it'll significantly speed up your day-to-day work because you're not having to type out every single letter in every single word. Try typing just the first couple letters of a folder name and then hitting Tab and seeing how it behaves. Alright, now in your Module 0 folder, go ahead and create a new folder called Conditionals, and then inside Conditionals, create a new file called conditionals.py. In this lesson, we're going to learn about conditional statements, which are what allow programs to behave differently or execute different instructions based on some situation or condition that you specify. A basic statement looks like this: if condition, new line, tab inward, do something. New line, tab back outward, else, do something else. The if statement checks this condition, and if the condition is true, then we execute the stuff directly below it and indent it inward. Otherwise, we will instead execute the stuff in the else section. Now, you might have noticed that I said true and false. That means Booleans, right? Conditional statements check Boolean conditions. This indentation is important because it helps determine the scope of statements. Scope is an important programming concept for you to know because it defines the boundaries or the limits of a certain set of instructions or code. You can almost think of it like these indented statements are children of these parent statements. Only if the condition is true do these child statements execute, and then only if the condition is false does the else statement execute, and subsequently its child statements execute. Let's see an example of this in action. Go ahead and type what I'm typing. If 5 is greater than 3, greater than is another operator. We obviously know this is true, but I'm going to go ahead and just do this to demonstrate to you. I'm going to print 5 is greater than 3. So if I write my changes, I open a new window, and then I execute my code, you can see that the output message prints. However, if I go back and I change this 5 to a 2, and then write my changes, execute my code, you can see here that nothing prints because the stuff indented underneath the if statement here did not run because the condition was false. Now let's add the else statement. I'm going to go back, I'm going to add else, indent inward, print, 5 is not greater than 3. We know that this is wrong, however, you'll see where I'm getting at. If we execute this program again, you'll see it prints out the message as we expect, and now let's go back and replace the 5 with a variable. Above the conditional, I'm going to go ahead and create a variable called num and set it equal to 5, and just like we did a couple of videos ago, let's go ahead and go through and replace every instance of 5 with the variable. If num is greater than 3, good, and now we're going to print out the message. There's a few different ways to do this. Remember, I'm going to show you both ways. The first way is to use the F for format and then use the brace notation, and then in the second one, I'm going to make use of Python's automatic appending of multiple elements inside a print statement. If you write your changes and then execute your code, you can see you get 5 is greater than 3, great, but then if you go back and change the value of the variable to 2, now you get the other print statement. This is a really simple example, but this is a showcase of how programs execute different instructions based on different conditions. You actually make decisions like this on a daily basis. If you're hungry, then you eat. If you feel dirty, then you go take a shower. And knowing this, you can start to think of yourself like you're a program, right? What kinds of conditions are you evaluating every day? What are you doing in response to different decisions that you make, etc.? Kind of think about this in the back of your head as you live your life because it'll help you start to think more like a programmer. Anyways, continuing on, what if I want to evaluate more than just 2 options? In this example, what happens if the value is 3? Let's try it. I'm going to make num equal to 3 here and then write my changes, execute my code. 3 is not greater than 3. Well, I guess that's technically true, but I don't like that. How do we consider more conditions? Well, the answer to that is the else if statement. Lots of programming languages have the concept of an else if, which is basically else if another condition, then do something else. In Python, else if is actually shortened to elif, I don't know why, and it's going to look like this. Elif, another condition, I'm going to call this condition 2, do another something. And actually, you can have an unlimited number of else if statements inside your conditional blocks. And so the one after this, I'm just going to call it condition n, and then do another something again, etc. Now, some key things you need to know about this, however, are that 1, every one of these conditions checks sequentially, okay? In the first statement right here, if this is false, then we check the next condition. If it's true, then we just execute whatever is indented inward below it, and then we skip the rest of these. And so that's the second thing you need to be aware of, is that each of these execution blocks is exclusive. Only one of these will ever execute, and that's the one with a true condition. If multiple of them are true, then only the first one gets executed. Subsequently, the else condition and the stuff below it will only ever execute when every condition is false. You need to remember this. So, to complete our program, I'm going to go down below the first statement and then add an else if check. If num is equal to 3. And now we come to another thing that you need to know. If you recall, we have been using == sign to assign values to variables. That's because == is the assignment operator. You use that to assign values. If you want to do comparisons between two things, you use the comparison operator or two equals signs. This is pretty universal across most programming languages, so make sure you don't accidentally use == where you should be using two and vice versa. So I'm going to go ahead and write my changes and execute my code, and then you see 3 is equal to 3. Very nice. I'm going to go ahead and test a couple more inputs here just to demonstrate. 1 is not greater than 3. Very good. And then 10 is greater than 3. Very nice. And there you have it. Again, a very simple scenario because we haven't learned a lot about programming yet, but this is how you program decisions into your programs. Now, thus far, we've been hard-coding these numbers into the code, which is bad if you remember, and so in the next video, we're going to showcase the full power of this by taking user input. Stay tuned.